financial problems, elder law, tax problems, business matters, divorce, personal injury, bankruptcy, your life, your reality. Life is complicated. There is the law and there is reality. Welcome to Law and Reality, sponsored by Thav Gross. Now here's your host, Ken Gross.
Welcome back to the second segment of Law and Reality after a 5-year run. The realism of the day today for Law and Reality is, who do you call when you really need help?
Can I please?
Brian Small, my co-host, what do you want to say?
Ghostbusters.
Oh, come
great.
on.
Is that what they always said?
That's who are you going to call?
Are you
Just
gonna,
Ghostbusters?
Are you going to sing it for us?
No, dear God, I don't want to scare the few people in the audience away.
We've got a special guest in the studio for this segment, Benny Napoleon, Wayne County Sheriff Benny Napoleon. Benny, it is great to have you back on the show.
It's a great pleasure to be back with both of you guys.
It's been a year since you're on.
It's been about that much.
Yeah,
it's little different circumstance.
Little bit, but you're still running. You're running the Wayne County Sheriff's Department. Still dealing with budget issues, I'm sure.
No question.
The fountain of money has not floated over and fallen on Wayne County at this point, has it?
Not at all.
No, nor has it for the city of Detroit.
I don't think they struck oil in Wayne County yet.
No,
they're trying. They're trying to find oil in all sorts of counties all over the place now.
I want to talk about hot issues. I want to talk about the department. Before I do, I always people don't realize how vested you are in what you do, because we see your name out there all the time. You've been a major force in Detroit area law enforcement and Detroit politics for a long time. But you're a lawyer.
Yes.
You started as a cop on the street. I always liked the Sibley shoes. You were selling shoes.
Oh, you remember that? How sweet.
Absolutely. And really the thing that strikes me is, along the way, when I first looked into it, was how much you've done education-wise and degrees and all the time working full-time from day one.
Yes.
And people don't realize this is no easy road. You paid the dues.
Well, I've tried to go through what I call a continuous personal improvement my entire career. And each year I try to do something that will kind of enhance my ability to serve the people of this community. So I do go out and try to find some training or some educational environment that will help me be a better public servant. So, I've gone to Wharton and Harvard and Northwestern, and I've been around the block a while.
Absolutely. Now here's what, and I don't know if you've heard this before or this is just me doing it, but I've had Warren Evans on the show as well, so I've gotten to know Warren, and there's a lot of parallels between the two of you. You both started as cops on the street. You're both lawyers.
Yes.
You both have that quench for knowledge and degrees and everything else. And here's the other my observation is, you both think that you're better looking than the other one.
I wouldn't go that far. Warren's a nice looking guy.
Yeah, okay. Oh, all right. Well, I'm going to quote you on that the next time Warren's on the show.
You can tell him I like Warren. He's a nice guy. Him and I have always gotten along. So we're gonna see how that changes now that he's going to be the county exec.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, there's his philosophy is he's saying he's the reach out guy to create the coalition, not to have that tension that exists right now.
He's been doing that.
Yeah.
And
I have talked to him several times.
I was going to say, I think it's great that you've gotten along, because the spirit of cooperation can carry the county and everybody a whole long way if we just work together instead of working against each other.
So he's got your vote?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
No question. I've been in law enforcement now 40 years, and I think Warren, God, I can't believe I just said that. Wow. Almost 40 years. It'll be 40 years in April. And, Warren he's a street cop. He came up through the ranks to lead the sheriff's office that I now lead, and he clearly understands the challenges that I have, and he knows that I'm willing to work with him as long as what they're trying to do is reasonable and makes sense, and it's in the best interest of the citizens of the county. So Now, if he starts to flip on me, I'll let you know. But right now, he and I have had some very candid conversations, and he understands it. Warren gets it. And I believe he will continue to get it because he understands, and he believes to his core that public safety is important.
Yeah, and that's always been my impression of both of you. I've always thought both of you get it. Pat Simasko's in the studio as well. Pat back with us from the last segment. How's that voice coming along? Getting back?
I'm going to start singing in a minute. You guys will like it.
Oh, there you go. We about 3 weeks ago, we had a technical difficulty, and the show went dark in the middle of the radio show. It wasn't one of the TV segments. So all of a sudden, we're doing the show, and we're about 6 minutes into it, and Chris says, Brian got text. You're not on the air. You're not on the internet. You're not on it at all. So I decided to sing my way at that point because I've always wanted to do it, but I didn't want anyone ever to be able to hear it.
Was it recorded?
No, it wasn't
No.
recorded. Nothing.
Oh, what a shame.
It never happened.
We're going to redo it now.
And then we all left.
A YouTube sensation.
Yeah, there you go. So what's going? So tell me about what I want to cover in this segment. Is I want to talk about the budget issues that's going on in Wayne County, but I also want to segue into talking about Ferguson because the issues that we've been watching on television with regard to that, I think are close to everybody, and there's a lot to talk about there. But what is going on with the budget and the overtime problems and so forth?
Well, the facts are very simple. A jail is not a place that is a picnic ground. We have, on any given day, 2,200 of the most dangerous criminals in America in our jails. We are unique among jails, and anyone who doubts this can check. 90% of the people in the Wayne County Jail are people who are either convicted of a felony and awaiting transportation, or they're awaiting charges on a felony. We have very few people in the jail who are convicted of misdemeanors and serving their time, which is really what the jail was designed specifically for: people waiting for trial and people who have been sentenced for misdemeanors up to a year. But that's not the case. We have 90% of our people are very dangerous felons that should be there. So we haven't been able to serve what is another part of our function, which is people who have committed crimes that should be in jail, sentenced for a year or less. We now have to use alternatives to that in order to be very budget conscious. So I am budgeted every year for 1,776 inmates per day. I currently have about 2,200
So you're
in the
500,
facility.
you're 500 over.
In addition to another 500 to 600 that are on tether alternatives to incarceration.
1,000.
So I'm almost 1,000 people over per day. And the unfortunate reality is that folks will look at me and say, well, you got to figure it out. Well, you tell me how you're going to figure out how to feed, clothe, watch,
stop the crime.
and all of that.
Just stop
when
the
you've
crime.
got 1,000 people more than they've given you money to watch.
You can't solve it. You got to get to the root of the problem. Tell these people not to commit crimes.
Yeah.
Can't you and Warren control the problem?
Yeah, no crime day.
Yeah.
That didn't work.
Every day is no crime day in Wayne County and Detroit.
I wish.
Yeah, that's reality is what you're dealing with, and that's a tough problem. We'll be back after the break.
Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call Fav Gross.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call Fav Gross today, 888-235-HELP.
You like your job. What you don't like is the way your boss has been treating you. He's making comments about how you look instead of your work, and he's been touching you inappropriately. If you complain, is he allowed to fire you? Absolutely not. Unwelcome sexual comments, advances, and contact are illegal in the workplace. Make him pay. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Fav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Fav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Every family has the family meeting, and we all know what that means. Dad's got dementia. What are we going to do? What's the care plan that the family has in place? Usually they don't, or they struggle with a care plan. When you go home tonight and you talk to your tax person and you talk to your financial person, say, what's the plan that you have in place? And as soon as they don't give you an answer, give me a call, because I can do it for you.
If your house is underwater, please listen to this important message.
The rules have finally changed. We're seeing some great loan modifications with reduced principal, and short sales are easier to get done than people think. The biggest problems I see are people wait too long or they try and do it themselves. There are no second chances.
If you're underwater in your house, call the experts.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
All right, welcome back to Law and Reality. We've got Wayne County Sheriff Benny Napoleon as our special guest of the show. Pat Simasko is with me, for our elder law expert, Brian Small, our co-host. We were talking, actually, when we went to the break, we were talking about, Pat brought it up, is that guys that are faced with misdemeanors know that they're not going to do any time if they're in Wayne County because you got nowhere to put them.
Well, that's part of it, but the worst part is someone who is charged with a felony who now knows if I plead to a misdemeanor, I'm not going to do any time.
Right.
When my crime was really a very serious crime, but the prosecutor has to clear that docket. So they'll say, okay, we'll cop a plea to a misdemeanor. Now I'm walking out the door because there's no room at the end. So it's really a vicious cycle that has to be addressed.
Yeah, and then if the prosecutor says, I'm not going to let him plea, and then I want the conviction, then you got nowhere to put him.
And I'm backed up. So fortunately, Chief Judge Kinney, who is now in charge of a 40-year consent order that the sheriff's office has been under. 40 years. When I was a rookie police officer, that's when this happened. And now I'm having to deal with it. But Judge Kinney has been very responsive in trying to bring the court, the judges in circuit court, and the prosecutor and myself to the table to try to figure out creative ways to deal with the population. So we do have a strong advocate who has the authority to try to push us in the right direction, who's been working hard. And we've seen some success.
Yeah, but does that create the money necessary to deal with the problem? Because it doesn't really come down to the budget and money.
It really does. And if you look almost at any municipal or county budget, a great percentage of that budget is going to go towards public safety. So I recognize that the sheriff's office is a significant drain on the county budget, but we've got a choice. Either we're going to put these dangerous people in jail or we're going to let them go. And one of the things that I have done when I told you guys my budget is for $1,776. Anything beyond that, I don't have staffing for, food for, medical care for, which forces me to work overtime and do a bunch of things that become news stories.
So I said to you in jest, can't you send them over to Oakland County? But what was the catch? What was the catch to that?
The catch to that is we still have to pay, and certainly I would never make a statement like that because that would cause me all kinds of problems. Hit 8 Mile is not a very popular term.
Right, there you go. but even then, you'd have to pay the cost.
Oh, absolutely. You're still going to have to pay to house them.
We need funding is what it comes down to.
Since the bankruptcy's been going on, have you noticed any better for the funds going to the sheriff's department?
No, I mean my fund comes from county tax revenues, which have dwindled. As we know, when the mortgage, we talked about, I think that the last time we were here, we talked about the fact that this mortgage challenge that has been national has resulted in property values being diminished, which means the county's property tax revenue collection has gone down substantially, which is what funds the jail and other county activities. But I think the county has to focus on doing those services that are mandated and not discretionary. You have to fund the prosecutor's office.
Right.
That has to happen. You have to fund the jail. That's required under the Constitution of the state of Michigan. So all these other things that the county has been doing that are discretionary, folks need to take a look at and say, we really can't do these anymore. We have to fund these other things that are mandatory.
It's like Dave.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
the
it's-
movie.
Yeah,
We need $912 million dollars.
It's a prioritization, and you're right.
No question.
The mandatory has to come first, and then the discretionary has to come later. And you can't say, "Well, we really like the discretionary, so we're going to give it the money," and then you don't have the money for the mandatory items. You got to follow the law. Is what you got to do.
But Ken, here's the thing that irks me the most. When my budget is done, my county commissioners and the county executive never take into account that for the last 40 years, not 10, not 20, not 30, but 40, no sheriff has been able to get to operate within the budget that they've been given. So you would think at some point in time people would recognize, and it's not waste. I have prisons. What I do is very much open. You give me money for 1,776 prisoners, and I have 2,800. You tell me how that's my fault.
I guess the problem is because it's been going on for 40 years. The attitude is, what's the difference if it's another year? You've never been able to operate within the budget so far, so we'll just continue on that same pattern. And I think that's what it comes down
Here's
to.
the problem with that, from my perspective. If you found the money for the last 40 years, because you got to pay it, one way or the other, you wind up paying, or you're going to have these people on the street. So they find the money.
Yeah,
so the money is there.
But why not allocate it so that you can use it the right way?
Allocate it, have a legitimate budget instead of a fantasy budget.
Even I think a better point to that is, let's say you're running a business, okay, and you have a budget and you don't have the money on the due date to pay your payroll tax deposit, and you've ended up paying it a week late, and you end up at the end of the month paying a $5,000 penalty. Same thing's happening to you. If you're not allocated the money so you can budget it the right way, you end up costing you more money to deliver the same service, and you still got to pay for it.
Well, you want to hear
so it's a waste.
Oh, but you hit it right on the head. But here's the most egregious part of that. Because we have so much overtime that I am now a new deputy hired, makes $28,000 a year.
Wow.
A captain makes about $85,000 a year. We now have captains performing the overtime that a $28,000 a year new hire could do, but they're choosing to pay a $85,000 a year captain.
Because there's no money to hire the new hire.
Well, you're paying that $85,000 a year captain to do it.
Yeah. So it's crazy. It's insane.
It's worse.
How do you justify that?
It's worse than that, though, because their pension's based on the last 3 years.
Yeah. See, you get it.
I know it.
So you know that captain's pension, which the county is ultimately going to have to pay, is going to be based
you're
on
paying
that,
twice.
based on the average final compensation, which that overtime is rolled into. So they're just going out the world backwards. And to me, I have asked the finance people consistently, explain to the taxpayers of Wayne County why this makes sense. Why I should have a captain at over $80,000 a year. And working captains after the second day, they get paid double time. That's not time and a half. So that captain is going to be making double time at $80-something thousand a year instead of paying a person straight time at 28.
Is there any
Captains
possibility-
must have a good lobbying effort going with the board to allow that to happen.
No,
Because
it's
the only
not.
person benefiting there is the captains.
I don't know if it's a possibility, but years ago when General Motors wanted to get rid of all of its highly compensated people, they started offering incentives to retire. Is there any possibility of bringing such an incentive program to captains?
But it wouldn't work because,
Because then you'd have another captain that needs to do the work.
They would
Yeah,
still have
but
to
your
replace
your
him.
new captains
we're
get
coming-
paid at a lesser wage.
we're
No,
com-
they're in the union. They all make the same wage.
We're coming up to a break, and in the last segment, I want to talk about Ferguson and kind of
Okay.
bring it out because there's so many issues there that are on people's minds from the standpoint of the cops, the black profiling of youth issue, the militarization of the police department. I want to hit on those three issues in the last little bit of the show. I want to hear what you have to say. We'll be
All
back
right.
after the break.
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Are you struggling to pay your mortgage? Afraid of foreclosure and the financial mess it can cause? Time is not on your side. Call Alan Stalter, the short sale specialist, For years, Alan has been helping distressed homeowners navigate through the short sale process. His experience will get you out of your home without the credit score damage that follows foreclosure. If you want a fresh start, you need to call Alan Stalter, the short sale specialist, 248-854-3829, or MetroDetroitShortSale.com.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
Thav Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
Going from hourly to salary seemed like a good career move, but now you're working 60 hours a week instead of 40, and you aren't getting paid any of that extra time. You're stuck, right? Wrong. You can be on salary and still be entitled to overtime. If you've been wrongly denied such pay, you may be entitled to that and more. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Hi, welcome back to Law and Reality. I want to do quick announcements. I want to thank our sponsors, Gold Star Law, Samasco Law, REO Services, Alan Stalter, Short Sale Specialist, Trips Auto Shop and Collision Center in Jackson, U.S. Staffing. If you're facing foreclosure or you have a problem, we have a free report called How to Save Your Home with Regulation X, The Hidden Secrets. You can download that report for free. Actually, you don't download it. You just go to this website, regxhomesaver.com. You enter your name, and then we PDF the file to you so you don't have to worry. I don't like having anyone clicking links on an email because you never know what the link comes from. So I'd rather have you get a PDF because it's insane what's going on with phishing and things like that on the internet right now. But that report tells you what your rights are if you're facing foreclosure. Believe it or not, Reg X is a good thing. It's gotten no publicity in the national media or even local other than from our show of how well it can work to help you get a loan modification. People need to know about it. We have a seminar coming up, How Do I Protect My Assets If the Nursing Home Becomes a Reality? Pat Samasco from Samasco Law and myself will be presenting. Pat's an elder law expert. It's Wednesday, October 22nd. You can sign up for it by calling 888-235-HELP or go to our websites, lawandreality.com and thavgross.com. And I think we'll also get it up on samascolaw.com by the time at least the television version of the show is airing. There's also financial crisis debt elimination seminars that are always announced. If you're watching the television version of the show, the slides that will show up on the show will give you the dates and times. I want to switch gears now. We've been talking about in fact, we had a really interesting discussion on the budget issue at the break, but I want to talk a little bit about Ferguson because I think it's, it's out there and it's got to be painful for someone in your position to be sitting there watching CNN and watching it unfold. Because I try and say, I look at it and say, how would Benny think about this? You're a cop. So you have, I think you have an inherent allegiance on issues to feel for the officer. But okay, now this officer's white. We know there's a black youth profiling problem in America. The president's talked about it. It's not news to anybody. So you have that issue. You then have all this trauma that occurs with the violence and how to solve it. What's your take?
Well, the thing that first I am very cautious about ever rushing to judgment because one thing that I do believe in is I believe in the system, and I believe that the facts and the evidence will all vet out and it'll show what in fact really happened because the evidence will be so much conclusive that we will really get a good picture of what transpired. So until all of that has been analyzed and we really know what happened, jumping to the gun is really something that I would not advise folks to do until we really have a good clue as to what transpired. You've hit it on the head. Yes, there's a problem in this country with profiling African American youth, in particular men. I think that's no secret. But the fact is that when you look at what happened in Ferguson, I would suspect that it's something that's been brewing for a long time.
You definitely get that feeling.
And I think that when you look at a department that is in a city, and I flip back to the Detroit Police Department when I first joined it, you have a department that does not reflect the makeup of the community and people that don't really live in the community. We had residency at one point, and I know that's a very hot topic, but I will stay where I've always been. I believe that police officers should live in the city that they're policing because they'll have a definite vested interest in the outcome. I really just believe that to the core. So when the officers don't live there and they don't look like the people who are there policing in the community overwhelmingly, and you have a department that has not reached out to that community in a very meaningful way. See, just not looking like them is not a problem.
Right.
It's when you don't look like that community, you don't have any ties to the community, you're not reaching out to try to become a part of the community instead of being apart from the community. And that's what I suspect has happened in Ferguson. As I've listened to different leadership folks talk about Ferguson, and on both sides, it appears that there's been no real meaningful interaction between the high-ranking government officials that are responsible for that community and the people who are there every single day.
Yeah, but you would have a whole bunch of people that would say, "Who cares? The police department's job is to enforce the law, and it doesn't matter whether they live in the community or they live 100 miles from the community. The law is still the law, and their job is still the same."
And in a pure and pristine world, that would be true. However, the fact that it's
not reality.
The reality is that I don't know what community you live in, but I imagine your community doesn't look like mine because I still live in Detroit. Would you imagine how your community would feel if you had, I don't know, do you know how many police officers in your community?
A lot of them, but not that
No,
many.
how many police officers in your local police department?
You don't know the mix or the
No,
number.
I don't.
Okay, so imagine that. Do you have any police officers in your city that look like me?
Well,
the answer to that question is no.
None of them are that good looking. So.
Whatever. But imagine if.
Listen,
That's
Eddie's not going to
absolutely
fix
true.
a traffic ticket
No.
for you. You
No.
don't have to butter him up. It doesn't work that way.
Imagine if all of a sudden in your community they hired a police department that is in your community, which is probably not like mine, I would suggest. They hired police officers from Detroit who look like me, who came into your community, police it, and then they didn't treat you right. That wouldn't make you feel too good.
No, of course not.
Okay, so it doesn't matter that they're from out of town, that they ain't from the city. It doesn't matter what they look like. It's the fact that they're not sensitive to the people who live in that community, and therein lies the problem when you talk
You
about
are
policing.
absolutely correct.
We're running out of time. I wish we started on this a little bit earlier. You know, the other thing, your point's well taken, and I haven't seen them really reaching out to change it over the last 2-3 weeks either. Maybe it's going on behind the scenes, but it certainly isn't getting covered.
There's going to be a long time before that community heals, and then before it heals, there's going to have to be some meaningful changes in that police department.
Sheriff, it is great having you back on the show. We're going to have you back again and talk more.
Man,
it's
I love
always,
you guys.
It's always
I was
a lot of
happy
fun.
to see that you guys wanted me back.
We'll be back with the next segment.